This week's episode is brought to you by the webcomic Latchkey Kingdom. It is an awesome comic about adventure, whimsy, fantasy, enchantment, childlike exuberance, video game-esque presentations visually, great art, awesome colorization. Gary, pick it up.
Yeah, it's by Nick Daniel. We're both real big fans of it, and you should check it out if you are a fan of lighthearted, humorous fantasy.
Yeah.
So check it out.
That is LatchkeyKingdom.com.
Some of our landings were desperate adventures. We are now prepared to meet the inevitable counterattacks with power and with confidence.
My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Kole Ross.
And you're listening to Bonfireside Chat. It is a snaky favorite.
It is a snake. It is a snaked out dude with bug brains favorite.
It is a snake without a plane.
Oh, man. And this week we are concluding our discussion of Kingsfield 4, the Ancient City. This is part 4 of Kingsfield 4.
Yes.
Yeah.
Previously, we vanquished the Queen of the Widow and discovered the remains of the Swordmaster Septiego. And now, with renewed purpose and some knowledge of what happened, we move into the core of evil in order to seal it away.
We got to get rid of this idol, Gary.
Yeah, I hate this fucking thing.
It sucks. Hate it. I don't know why I went on this quest.
Yeah. I mean, these assholes buy it.
Stupid kingdom.
A bad penny.
It's a bad... What's a bad penny? What?
I think it's like just a thing you can't get rid of.
Okay.
It's like a bad luck penny.
Okay. Like a monkey's paw.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Yeah.
So, we killed a bunch of snake people. We're gonna be fighting some snake people here in the future. But this is where kind of the overall cosmology of this arm of the Kingsfield universe kind of comes into play. And we learn what happened to this ancient city, and why it is no longer living. So we've cleared the egg field, or more appropriately the egg tunnels filled with hydralisks, and we enter in the back way to this kind of great graveyard. Although I'm not sure what exactly is buried here aside from big purple skulls.
Yeah, big glowing, diffuse skulls, magic skulls, and then just a bunch of regular skeletons. I like how skeletons, we talked about this before, I think, but just never really go away.
Yeah.
Like in the game, like you're just always going to fight skeletons. They pretty much show up in almost every area. So
it'd be interesting to do like a skeleton pacifist run, like if you were a skeleton sympathizer.
Mm-hmm. Like you just don't kill skeletons, but you'll kill everything else.
Right.
Yeah. I wonder if any skeletons drop any key loot. Like I wonder if you can do that.
Huh. I don't know. Maybe there's some kind of atonement you can do. You just go and do like you jump off of a ledge 50 times.
For every skeleton.
Yep.
I think that somebody has done. It might not be this one. It might be Kingsfield 1, but pacifist runs are a thing.
Huh.
In the game, like you can get through killing the minimum number of boss. It's like 2 or 3 bosses you have to kill.
Yeah.
But you can get through a remarkable amount of the game without killing anything. I think that might be Kingsfield 1.
Okay.
But I've read that before.
Kingsfield 2 or 4?
2.
Okay.
By 1, I mean 2.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so we're in this great graveyard. There's not an awful lot that happens down here otherwise, but you start seeing signs of this flooding that you've never really seen before. It's going to get much, much worse before it gets any better, if it gets better at all.
Yeah, which it doesn't.
Nope.
So you kind of move through here fighting. It's just kind of a combat area. But the big thing is you're moving into this flooded area where you see this central tower that is, and there's water like right below you. And to get down there, you have to drop into the water where there are skeletons, underwater skeletons, and crawl your way back up. And this is kind of this is straight up New Londo. Area that has been flooded, like a whole city that has been flooded. You don't see the whole city yet. You just see the bottom of the tower, but you can kind of see suggestions of it if you look out in the distance. Mm-hmm. And
this is like a big chamber, like going down, past this big gate. It's like there are these kind of like towers that you see like off in the distance, and you're going to be going up and down and up and down. And this is one of the most like lore heavy areas because you're seeing these tablets that have text written on them, talking about like the mantras of this, society that has turned itself over to the dark, right? We live with darkness, we go with darkness. To hold the will of the darkness, we build an altar and offer the idol. Darkness, cold, peaceful, shadow veil over all life. So this isn't just the absence of light that they're talking about, but the warm, comforting embrace of oblivion.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. And so you get the sense that water was put down here specifically to seal them away.
Yes. Yeah, it is a sealing effect, and clearly hasn't totally worked, but has sort of, and that's ultimately where you end up needing to go. Mechanically, this is really important because in the middle of the central tower is going to be your teleportation hub for a while. It has golden water, which heals magic and health, and is not urine.
Okay.
And it has a teleporter in there as well. So like coming back to this area to refill, this is, and you're going to be entering up into some very difficult areas as well. So this is pretty key that you can teleport back here anytime you want and refill, fill up.
Yeah. If you're paying attention to your journal at this point, there is also, it explains a little bit about what the dark folk are, which I get the sense are not actually like people. Like it's not a race. It's not like the Widow where they're transforming them into dark folk, but people who have given themselves over to it, to this corrupting force. And they speak specifically of these four guardians, these four servants of the Dark One, right? So we've already fought one, the Dark Magician, which just is a funny name. But there are also kind of these three others that it alludes to, which you can see as it's laying stuff out. And then in the deepest area, you're finding this dark crystal that gives you just a little bit more exposition that says this is a culture, this is a sect that has kind of like given itself over to the peaceful to the peace of this oblivion, right? But saying that the real evil here was imbalance, right? And so the dark kind of arose because of the preponderance of light that was present in this forested
right, the
city.
forest folk. Yeah.
And so it was a natural extension of that.
Right. You can't, it's like, I got the impression it's almost like people who wanted to, like even out the population, like things are too prosperous right now. This is too, things are too good right now. We need another Vietnam to clear their ranks. It was that kind of thing. Like these are these assholes.
Okay.
At this point. I'm not saying that. I don't think that.
All right.
But I was talking for the dark folk.
Who will speak for the dark folk? I feel real uncomfortable saying dark folk at this moment, so I'm going to. Yeah. We've probably said it at least like 20 times over the course of this season, and it's probably something that somebody's great grandpa said at one time. Yeah, but you get down here. I forget. Is there a relevant item that you're getting? Is it a key?
I'm sure it is. Yeah. I'm sure. I bet you. Like there's some kind of key item that you have to get through here.
Yeah,
that stuff. Like I cease to remember. So
yeah, I didn't make a note of the critical path. It was just kind of like, this is a really awesome place that reminds me of this thing from this game that I played.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is really cool.
I will cease to question. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there's this whole, like, my favorite part of it is the area that is clearly, like, kind of crumbling infrastructure and broken towers and stuff, where you go down to get this crystal because of how often you have to be underwater during it. Like, that's really fun for similar reasons, the underwater tunnels of last time. And it also just, it looks like it's ruined for more. It looks more ruined than just water. Like they're actually like crumbling masonry.
You know what it looks like to me?
That are destroyed.
Like just from the topology of it is Ulasil.
Yeah, like the way that like everything is kind of canted angles in Ulasil because it's everything is literally falling over.
Mm-hmm.
It's got that going for it. Yeah. And clearly, like, what happened to Elysial is there's a direct line between this and that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But it's a neat little area that you dip into that may or may not be optional.
Yeah.
I would hate it if it was optional. Yeah.
I think you do get a key down here. I don't think I came here at first. I think I skipped this and then ended up kind of exploring, that area, like the tower that has the slime down at the bottom and the slime monsters.
Yeah.
You can go there right away, and then I needed something from here. Yeah. So I ended up having to go back.
Yeah, you need like Cesari's key or whatever it is. Serac's key to get to get to that, and that is kind of the last the last barrier to the depths, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So all of this is kind of working towards that. I think that the lowest levels of the what we're calling the connective tissue. Here, like just things that if you're looking at guides or even the official strategy guide refers to it as like Central Tower 1F, like the first floor here. This is probably the least obnoxious and like least confusing of those.
Yeah.
Just because it is, in a state of ruin. It does have kind of a non-standard architecture, and you're fighting like these really interesting like enemies. Both these club ogres, like you would find in Blighttown, and these forest assassins, which are like night elves, essentially, right?
Yeah. There's the night elves. There's also those demon things, like the guy. Yeah, those things are fucking tough.
Yeah.
Because they're quick. Like they just get up on you constantly.
Yeah.
But yeah, they are interesting, and they're more interesting fights. And later you're going to fight multiple demons all the time.
Yeah.
This is Demon Town, and also the giant spiders, which I love. They look cool. When I first ran into one of them fell from the ceiling on top of another one.
Yep.
And they were like a turret. Like the one on top was shooting things at me while the other one steered, so they could shoot in one direction and face in another.
Symbiosis.
Yeah, exactly. It was Mario Kart Double Dash on that shit. That was really fun. But yeah, it is a better area than usual. It's also very generous with save points. Like there's an area where there's like two of them. I think there's two of them in this tower
in very rapid succession.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which is nice.
Yeah. But the spiders, it does something that we generally adore, which is a boss becoming a regular enemy. I haven't compared the models, but I think that the gigantic spiders that you fight here are the same as the first boss in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though that one like hangs from the ceiling, like it might be a little bit different, but they're very similar, and they have the same kind of attack, I think.
Trying to slow you down. And what you're finding down here is the treasury, right? Which is which is where the deepest, darkest, most closely guarded treasures of the civilization are supposedly held. And like this is like if there's somebody coming here, for items of legend, people like Zastari the Thief, also known as Endless Keys.
Endless Keys, which I think is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Zastari Endless Keys. Pretty cool. He's through here, and you have to go through this vestibule that is just like a big spear trap, shaped like a room. It's just ridiculous. Like, I just kind of like powered my way through. There's a way to turn these off, but I didn't get, until I backtracked a couple times, I didn't find it. So I just ended up like heel powering my way through the traps and just kind of sucked it up, which is something you should never do in real life. But you can find your final merchant of the game here, and the thief who's been kind of dogging you the whole time. Yeah. Yep. And he has a lot of interesting new items at this point. I think he has the whole crystal set.
Oh wow.
He has one of the big item sets, and he's suspiciously next to a huge area full of empty treasure chests. So you don't know exactly what's going on with that. But as we previously alluded to, money is meaningless. So if you don't have better armor at this point, you might as well grab all of this crystal set, and it's pretty good. Like I wore pieces of it throughout the end of the game because I didn't go back and get all of the magic, the final armor.
I think I avoided it because I know that as a general rule, you've just got. anytime you see something in Emergent, there's going to be something better like 2 minutes later. So
if money had
still
value,
now,
I would agree.
Exactly.
But I was kind of like, it's better, even if this just protects me against these two demons in this next room, I'll take it.
But yeah, old habits die hard, and also I didn't want to add inventory clutter.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I totally agree here. So like referring back to that, trap room, spears what are a vestibule. We didn't talk about it, but back at the beginning, like when we found, talking to that simpleton, he is a guy who will sell you permanent upgrade items for the bones and fangs that you found around. So it's non-standard currency there. But also next to him is a chest that has Mew's amulet. I'm not referring to the legendary 151st Pokemon Mew. I'm referring to MYU. Which is not for Mew York University, but kind of this legendary hero from this kingdom. And this amulet will cause all of the hidden doors, which have been doom humping up to this point, to glow green. And here, like it tells you exactly where you need to run to unlock to get into the secret room to deactivate the spears. Right?
Yeah, I never picked it up.
Yep. So it replaces the water amulet as the most useful neck item.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just I ended up using one of the wit items gives you more health. That's I think the wit necklace. So that's why I ended up using as my necklace item when I wasn't drowning. But yeah, I never got Mew's amulet, so that would have been useful. But
yeah, that does help you. If you were afraid to run up against every wall when every wall could possibly be a spear in the face, that was the way around it. But you get down here, Chad has said he's after, Zastari's treasure. And, even the lore itself, the journal says that, whatever the greatest treasure was, remains a mystery. But there are two awesome treasures down here, right? Mm-hmm. I'm thinking specifically of one, which is the King's Map.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is and it's pretty cool because it is a crystal ball. It is a game without advanced technology, but the way it articulates, and you've got it in the notes here, and it's what I would have said as well, is like the map from Metroid Prime. But the idea of that being expressed through magic, diegetically rather than, through like a high tech source is really funny to me. Mm-hmm. Like I can use this crystal ball. The way it articulates is exactly like a high tech video game map. But it's 3D and allows you to move around and stuff. At this point, it was a little late in the game for me to use it too much, but I did use it in the final boss area.
You have to imagine what kind of restraint that took the developers. So programming this probably wasn't very easy because, the map geometry, unless they just took the weird geometrical primitives and then just put it into this thing and said, hey, go hog wild. But to give you this what otherwise would be a selling point, like it is for Metroid Prime, let's say 75 to 80% into this huge long game, and not right when you first go into
behind a tricky puzzle too.
Yeah, you have to kill those lava mouths,
and you have to get up there too, which involves falling off a ledge onto a coffin and breaking through a breakable wall,
right,
to get it. So it's very hidden for something that took a lot of work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a mystery and it's weird, and I like when high effort stuff is hidden, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Me too.
The other treasure that I'm kind of alluding to here would be this something that replaced the Wave Crasher, which we didn't talk about last episode, Gary.
Yeah, which is the go-to weapon. It's just on the beach next to a save point.
Yeah,
it's very good.
There's no geometry for it, in the world. It doesn't present itself. You just have to press X at the right spot.
Right, it's buried in the sand.
Okay.
But you get that it's a very strong katana blade. It's a two-handed sword, but it has a very reliable overhead strike and does a lot of damage. And I used it up until this point.
Yeah.
Which I got the three-bladed sword,
which looks like something out of a weird D&D, the Book of Martial Prowess or something like that.
Yeah, it's an exotic weapon proficiency item for sure.
Yeah.
I love how you're getting that. I was really curious as to what I feel like if this were a later Souls game, there would be significance as to what was left behind here and what wasn't. Because we didn't mention it, but we're in a giant treasure room where like more than half of the chests have been like some of the remaining ones are trapped. So that made sense. Like the ones that were trapped were not opened, but several of them are not trapped. And but most of them have been looted at this point before you got there, presumably by Zastari. You know, he didn't get the ultimate treasure or what have you, but he failed in that. But he was here before, or by Chad. Chad went through here and just kind of, well, I can't get through the spear room. I'll set up shop here.
Yep.
Yeah.
I will live closest to what I fear most.
Yeah.
To what I spear most.
Yeah. The demon room and the spear hut. That's where he's setting up shop.
Oh, man. Yeah. But, yeah, so like, do you think that the King's Map is the ultimate treasure? Because that would be pretty fucking sweet. Like, the whole notion of magic and technology being, you know, interchangeable, right? Like, that would have to be the ultimate one, in my opinion. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so, too.
Okay.
And it's really well hidden, and it's still there when you get there.
Yep.
So, fuck you, Zastari.
And fuck you, Chad.
Yeah, Chad.
Yeah. But yeah, there's a puzzle that you have to do in order to progress, but you don't know that you have to do it aside from just seeing that it's there, which is putting these properly colored plates onto their right elements in the correct order. And and that's just, you know, again, in a strangely Zelda-like turn for an un-Zelda-like series, you just have to find a poem that tells you the right order. Like, first there was the wind, which carved the earth and gave way for the water, and then everything caught on fire. Right.
It's pretty obnoxious, though, because, so for one thing, you're just going by the symbols. It's not like you pick up the fire plate. You have a plate that has some little wavy lines, and you have to discern that, what does that represent, wind or fire? So that's a little bit annoying. But if you click on one of the things ahead of time and put it in the wrong spot, because you're not putting plates, you're pushing buttons rather. So you have to guess which the buttons are. If you click the wrong one, there's no reset. You're forced to complete the puzzle wrong, which causes a trap door to drop under you into a poisoned skeleton pit that you can only teleport out of. And the teleportation sigil is on the ceiling. So you have to find the area that you can teleport out of while your screen is flashing green with poison, while you're being accosted by skeletons, and you have to teleport all the way back to the central tower with the golden juice. Go sip on the King's juice, but it's a lot to go through, and then you have to backtrack you're all the way here, and all because you know, oh, I see a button, I click it. You know, I got here before I read the fucking poem,
right?
You know, so it's like I just saw a button, and it was like, okay, I'll just try a combination.
Yeah.
Oops. You know, you're fucked. Yeah. Like there just needs to be a reset button or something. It's really frustrating.
Yeah. So there is a line, you know, beyond which being punished for being curious is unfair, right? Because that's a thing in the Souls game. You're punished. You know, you're punished for being more incautious than curious, right? Or for letting your curiosity extend into carelessness. And this, like, pretty much is, you know, in a game where you're encouraged to investigate everything. You know, you're pressing X pretty much constantly. You know, like for it to do that and to railroad you into a you know, what might actually be certain death, and the piss water might be the place where you last saved too,
right?
You know, like to be sent back there regardless. Yeah, big no, which is, you know, disrespecting people's time.
Well, what was also frustrating about it was I had pressed one of the buttons, you know, before I read the poem. When I came back, I was like, oh, I know the order, but I've already pressed one of the buttons.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so I just have to go through the motions of failing this, even though I know the solution.
Yeah.
You know? So, but, yeah, I mean, it's not a deal breaker or anything, but it's frustrating.
Yep.
And it's important because you get the ring of wisdom or kingliness.
The Klingler ring.
Yeah, the Kingler ring.
Yep.
Crabby. But if you remember, way back before there was
two whole episodes ago.
Yep, they said you know, only, you know, a kingly presence can go through, or you're not kingly enough.
You are not kingly.
Yep, you are not. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you are not kingly.
Yes, you are but a lowly crabby.
Mm-hmm. You're not a kingler yet.
Yep.
You'll never be a slow king. You'll always be a slow bro.
Oh man! So this kind of dead ends just a little bit, and you've got to go. You've got to go back a little ways, which is to head to what I think is one of my favorite area names in a game that I've seen. Yeah. Even if the area itself is pretty unremarkable, the Mansion of the Howling Winds. I mean, come on.
Yeah, it sounds super cool.
The land of wind and ghosts.
Yeah. Disappointing in real life. Sounds very cool.
Yep.
So the big gimmick here is crossing this bridge to get across it with these very anime attack-looking gusts of wind. They come through at semi-regular intervals. And you want to try dashing through, and you might have to adjust if you get hit by this wind gust across this bridge.
Pro tip: just run towards the left of the bridge, and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like somebody off to your left. It's either Terra or Locke or somebody from Final Fantasy VI is casting Ultima at you. This is what it looks like.
That is what it looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when you get to the end, there's like two ogres walking in slow circles. So. Yeah.
Which way did he go, George? There's a little secret area if you drop off of one of those ledges, and that's where I think you get the last wind crystal. I only know that because I looked up a guide to find where to get all the magic spells to try them out for the purpose of this, and then I promptly refused to internalize what any of the spells beyond the 4 that I used all the time did. So... yeah.
That drop off area is really well hidden, though.
Yeah, it is.
Like you have to fall off the cliff onto this barely concealed ledge. That is just wide enough for you to land on. It opens up this whole area full of hydralisks.
Yep.
Down there to fight and kind of get more treasure and such.
Yeah.
So.
But if you proceed towards the Mansion of Howling Winds itself, you can go into the ground level and quickly be stymied, having your progress halted by these various doors and such, and this big gigantic gate. What it actually wants you to do is to go up towards the upper level and find this A, a switch, and B, this guy. I always want to say Sazerac, but I might just want a tasty cocktail right now. But his name is Serac Resmac.
Yeah, Serac Razmak.
Serac. Let's just Sazerac. So he kind of is the mad scientist of the forest folk. Like he is like one of the people who like opened up the Dark Ruins. Like he has had a hand in making all of this happen. He wasn't the person who actually broke the seal. That was the king's son. So it was the prince. Spoilers for later, or maybe from 2 episodes ago. I forget. But yeah, he very much was the Oppenheimer, right? They're all sons of bitches now. Yeah,
indeed. That's exactly it. And kind of to as penitence, like he's living out this life in this mansion, surrounded by monsters and wind. and ogres, and like, do you get the sense like these monsters are around him? Like, are they guarding him, or are they keeping him in?
Well, he's stone. But Serac really is just lore significant, regardless of if he's trapped there or not. But the real action is down in the basement. And again, one of these dark servants, the Hammer Giant, right?
Right, which has kind of a less significant name than some of the other dark servants.
A little bit. It just kind of says what he does and is.
Yeah, he reminded me of like a Castlevania boss or something like that, like a 3D version of him. Like I kept imagining the first boss from Castlevania 3.
Oh yeah.
But it's kind of a cool, like it's a rare like set piece moment.
Yeah.
Because he busts through walls.
He's like he's like Mr. X from Resident Evil 2.
Yeah.
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 Like he's chasing you
from Resident Evil 3.
he's chasing you around this not like maze like, but it's this basement, and there are more corridors. Like most of the time when you're fighting enemies, regardless of whether the walls are speary or not, it's been in a relatively geometric space. Whereas this guy, like you benefit from keeping him on the run.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. Yeah. Which is really cool. Like it's one of my favorite boss fights in the game because of that. He's not too difficult. Like you pretty much just kind of hit and move, and I end up using the flash spell primarily. The entire game that was my attack spell.
Yeah, and
that stuns him for a second.
Yeah,
so you can hit him. But yeah, he's great. Like I really like this fight, and the big reason you're here is to get Serac's key, Serac Razmax, key.
It's Sazerac. Yeah.
Sazerac.
Have you ever tried making one of those? It's really, really hard.
No.
No.
I've never had one.
Oh, it's it's something that, like, if there was a justification to, like, have somebody, like, professionally make you a cocktail, that'd be the one. There's, like, all kinds of muddling and, bitters and shit. Yeah. It's tasty. It's like a New Orleans thing. Fruity. Like most old school cocktails are. But I digress. But yeah, you're down here to get Serac's key. And this, you've actually seen. So, like, when you come upon a door that you can't open, it says, like, so-and-so's key required. And even chess, right? So this,
like Serac's chest, Serac's door.
Yeah. So anytime you get one of these keys, it's kind of a cue to go backtrack, which is what we're going to have to do. However, I think that it is time to do an ad read. Or break.
Yeah. Yeah, don't use your industry speak on me. Yeah. Take a quick break to acknowledge who's keeping the lights on here. And this week it is Nick Daniel from LatchkeyKingdom.com.
Yeah, it is a delightful and wonderful and enchanting, I would say, web comic that is about adventure. I would say is the one word that I would use to describe it.
Yeah, it is a young intrepid lad going out in kind of a video game inspired, but not directly taken from, for the most part, a video game world. And it is lighthearted. Like, the tone is kind of like last episode I compared it to Bone. It's also got a little bit of like the old Carl Barks DuckTales to it, and just going out and seeking adventure for adventure's sake. And there are multiple storylines that are kind of going through. Specifically for listeners of this show, he's done a couple of Dark Souls crossover things. One that's running as we speak, I believe. Where the characters from the show meet the characters from the game. And it is a lot of fun. Recommended. One thing that I love when webcomics do, especially like large plot-driven ones, is when they actually make the effort of breaking it up into arcs. Right? Yeah. Like when it's been running for a while, which I know this one has been, taking that kind of like thought, putting that effort into actually like, giving these miniature stories these beginnings, middles, and ends. It actually shows that somebody is thinking about the reader, which makes it thoroughly digestible if you're going back and doing like an archive read. Well, it's not just about the reader; it's also about story structure. Well, true. Yeah. So like planning things out in that, like it has the structure is like a comic book. Like that's how it runs like physical comic books work, which like a lot of times web comics are just big meandery messes, just kind of like one big line of goo from the beginning to the end. And a lot of times, like if somebody suggests a web comic to me, they're like, well, the first 20 episodes aren't very good, but you can skip them. And it's like, well, I don't want to skip them because it's a narrative thing. Yeah. And this is nice because they're self-contained arcs, and it there are multiple stories that have beginnings, middles, and ends. And you can feel it. Like, the best things have endings, and that goes for TV shows or comics or any kind of serialized fiction. You can feel when something is being written with the end in mind versus when it's not. Right. So, yeah. And this definitely has that going for it. Yeah. So we're very appreciative to have somebody who makes something so great willing to support the show. That is LatchkeyKingdom.com. Once again, that is LatchkeyKingdom.com. Check it out. If you're feeling extra generous, you can also go over to audibletrial.com/bonfireside chat and pick up a free audiobook on us. Anything you want, any kind of audio entertainment, stand-up comedy. They have all kinds of books read by the actual authors. Very, very cool. I would recommend. I read the physical book. I haven't listened to it yet, but David Cross, Brian Posehn, and Bob Odenkirk wrote a book recently that is discarded scripts from their Mr. Show days, and it has 2 movie scripts that they were not able to produce. And there's a lot of Mr. Show magic in that. It's called Hollywood Said No, and that's very cool. So that I picked it up actually when I saw them live, but they read the audiobook version of it. And I bet you it's great because the book's actually really hilarious. Yeah. Love when that happens. Authors are like one of the
people, it just makes sense that they would have insight into the way that their own stuff is delivered. Like, that is why I've never read a David Sedaris book, but I have listened to all of them.
Well, this is like a screenplay too.
Sure.
So like they're not quite acting it out, but it makes sense to have both both characters, or both Bob and David, read their parts,
right,
and stuff. So even though it makes me wish I hadn't already read the book,
yeah,
because I would love to listen to it, and maybe I will anyway. So,
and if you wanted to listen to it, what would you do?
Well, I would have already used my free Audible token.
Okay.
But if I were a listener, I would go to audibletrial.com/bonfire chat and support the show and pick up some free audio entertainment.
Yeah. Sign up for a trial of the service and go to town listening to that awesome Mr. Show magic.
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk about more Kingsfield.
I do too, especially because we're going to one of my favorite things that has happened in a game. Would the Passage of Light be as strong if you couldn't poke your head into it earlier and just be like, oh shit, and then back out?
I don't think so. So
I don't think so either.
The arc of it is pretty interesting because you poke your head in, and it is tonally really different from everything you've seen up to this point. And even by the time you grow into it, it is really tonally different too. You never see anything as trippy and surreal as this. But when you go into it earlier, if you go into it at any appreciable distance, you're going to be killed. And so you think, this is something I'm building up to. This is something that I'm going to be able to surmount, right? And you are, but I don't know that without that anticipation it would be as successful as it is.
Yeah. And it's so, and I'm sure, I trust you, you're editing this episode, I trust you to use them, give the music it's a reasonable highlight because it is so ridiculous and incongruous. It's such a moment of shock and awe when you first dip into this. From a moment of when you first run into this earlier in the second episode, I think we had just come from the elf forest, from the forest folk, the golem, super peaceful, and then all of a sudden you're just blasted with this this music and these flashing multicolored lights, and sense of ridiculous urgency and just wyverns flying through the sky. It's awesome.
Yep.
And it is just super overwhelming. So to know that I was killed immediately, and then I was just oh man, I can't wait until I can do this because this is great. Other than that presentation part, it kind of disappoints as far as what you're going to do when you're here. But that presentation is gold. Gold.
And what you're doing here is, you're just fighting these four-armed knight dudes, which they're hard. If you read about this game, you find one of the most common facts by Chad is, how do I beat the four-armed knights? And really it's just keep your distance, you dummy. Do what you usually do and bob and weave, and you're fine. The biggest thing that's different about them is that they can attack you from behind themselves because they got four arms, dummy. Right. And that they just they fight you in these kind of casket rooms, which makes it hard to maneuver. But that's really about it. And what you're here to do is just assemble this ancient set of armor, which is probably too heavy for you anyway.
Well, you figured out the secret of the ancient set, right?
No.
If you wear all of it, it's the lightest armor in the game, and it gets a big defense boost too. But you have to wear the whole set, including the sword and the shield. Okay,
so that was my problem. I put on the whole armor set, but I probably had a better. I probably was using the Wave Crasher or the Tri-Blade.
Yeah, which I did too, and then ended up using the ancient set because the weapon is not as strong, but it's lighter.
Okay.
So you end up being able to attack more frequently.
Okay.
It's actually really good up until you. But again, the way this game gives you really good weapons and then gives you just slightly better weapons immediately.
Yeah.
So you're not very far away from getting the ultimate weapon of the game, and then not too far after that of getting the ultimate armor. So, but the ancient set's actually really good. You just have to commit.
Yeah.
So.
And I like that idea of how like having a theme set or like a curse set or something like that. Like not like in the D&D sense of you need to
can't take it off.
You can't take it off, but like in the Final Fantasy VI sense of like, oh, I'm gonna make Gao an imp or something like that.
Right.
Yeah. But I think that this as a set piece is more just is great because of its incongruity, more than anything. And that and it when you come out the other side, you're dropped next to the king's room, right?
Right, which is the room that you're not kingly.
Yeah.
But now you are. Because you put on the ring, you can go in.
We didn't say this. I usually don't like break rhythm to mention things we missed, but like in order to get here and in order to like unlock the secrets of this tomb, you have all the keys. You have the engineers, the workmen's, the Sazeracs, and all of that. And one of the by the red fountain, you have this big room full of mysterious chests that you can't open until you get those keys. And so you have to go back there and get these black eyes, which you use to open up this inner sanctum, right?
Yeah, and I've actually I've been doing it the entire time.
Me too.
So I didn't think of coming here at the end to just kind of do it once.
Yeah.
Because I was kind of using it as a hub anyway. Mm-hmm. But that's what they lead to.
Yeah, I came back here you obviously have to come back because Serac, you have to get his key from that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's worth noting that that hub does exist, and that is a pretty good like mile marker for the game. Oddly enough, and it encourages that backtracking that you otherwise would or would not do. Yeah, but getting into the king's room, it's another one of those great story beats, which is you see the skeletonized king. Unfortunately, you don't have to fight him. He is just withered and dead on this throne room floor. In this tomb. It's weird that his palace is a tomb, although he may have retreated here to die. I'm not sure. And there's a voice out of the darkness that basically says that the thing that caused this to happen was his beloved, which I'd read to be his son, but it could be anybody he held dear. Who actually did break the seal to go. Yeah.
Because we know his son ran off. Mm-hmm. Right, like that's supported somewhere else, and that's the only other family member that's mentioned.
Right.
So just for simplicity's sake, it'd be weird if it was just another character that wasn't mentioned elsewhere. So I think it's his son as well.
Yeah.
And he kind of lays out some of the the theming of the area too, which is like that balance thing. Like he says something like when the light becomes stronger, the dark does as well. And then perhaps relying on magic alone isn't the best way to fight the darkness. So, it is a message of balance, kind of on both ends. Like, you get the idea that the light, which we had seen before in the Shrine of Light, like we know that kind of got out of hand. And,
Okay, mistakes were made, but you're right. Like there was lore around that, which is they call it the Shrine of Light. Which it's the passage of light when you see it. I don't know, weird translations, but they say of the passage of light that the light grew so great it soon became a symbol to fear rather than one to worship. The shrine of the oath was sealed, as was the ancient king. So
right.
Just that they're both extremes here, which like any Ken Levine or Irrational game, the real lesson is that extremism is bad.
Yeah, you should be, or like South Park, just to compare these career centrists.
The truth is in the middle, Gary.
It's one of those things that very well may be true, but it's such a boring thing to have be the point of anything.
Gary, the old bearded white man, he was evil, but so was the black lady.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised, and they were both equally evil.
I know,
but they were both actually. And
okay.
It probably isn't the best place to have like BioShock Infinite spoilers.
I suppose.
But
okay, I'll put a marker there and beep that out.
Yeah, feel free to bleep that out. But yeah, man, I don't. That stuff. Like, there's so much that game. Like, the game is. We talked about this before.
Yes.
Like, aged pretty poorly in my mind. And the stuff that I like is, the more I think about it, is confined to such a small amount of the actual time you're spending. Mm-hmm. And this isn't just me railing against the play, because I've done that 1,000 times. But the even thematically, like, the whole stuff that you're set up, the false, like the false floor of it, the misdirection that is the first like 2/3 of the game is, not as, like, I found it pretty breezy going through it, but in retrospect, knowing that it adds up to nothing, kind of feels betray-y to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, I'm very much of the opinion that you can go through a whole experience and, come away saying that I genuinely love this stripe of it. But I'm curious about that particular one, just going back through it with the knowledge of the whole and seeing how much of that stripe is actually represented in the experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and it's like, I don't regret playing it. Like, I think it's a good game.
Yeah.
I had fun. It is a good game, but yeah, it is frustrating. It might be my least favorite of the series.
Right.
Like, so.
Yeah. Anyway, so the truth is somewhere in the middle, and the king warns you that maybe magic isn't the way to do it. So what's the solution, Gary? A magic sword.
A magic sword, which makes sense.
Yeah.
One thing that should be noted is that until you go into this room, there are unlimited skeletons spawning in this room with this guy.
Sounds like paradise.
Yeah. When you pause there, I want to make sure I was thinking of the same place. Like, this guy is kind of a boss fight in that he is constantly summoning skeletons.
Is he?
At you. Yeah.
I don't know that I've ever... okay. So one of the facts that I read after the fact, was like, it alluded to this being as like an infinite like leveling area,
yeah,
and talking about spending hours and hours there. But like, I think that I turned off the hot and cold running skeleton taps by the time I read that, and so I was like, what the fuck are they talking about?
No, I had to come up and the skeleton king who was in the middle. I had to get up and stab him with my sword a couple times.
Wow.
And until then, he just summoned skeletons forever.
Yeah, no, I have no recollection of this.
I wonder if there's if there's triggering that happens. Like, maybe we did things in a different order, and who knows? But it was definitely a boss fight for me.
Huh.
When I first read this, I was like, am I thinking of an area that comes later? Because it has been, spoiler, it's been a while since I've actually played this.
Yeah.
But no, it was definitely him. So he's kind of a mini boss encounter.
The king?
Yeah.
No, because I just found him like keeled over on the floor, like next to a brazier.
There's a room with maybe it's not the king, maybe it's like a priest that is before the king I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
There is an infinitely summoning skeleton room with a guy who summons skeletons infinitely.
Yeah. There is evidence that you are telling the truth. However, I did not encounter any of that.
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, it might have been like, maybe the game is slightly more. There's a little bit more sophistication than we think.
Yep.
Maybe it's actually like a trigger that happened for me and didn't happen for you, or vice versa. I don't know. The slumped over part sounds familiar to me as well, but I definitely went through a throne room with some kind of royalty skeleton standing by the throne, summoning infinite skeletons.
Yeah.
It was not just a wonderful dream. Like, it happened. So, yeah. Yeah, if anybody knows the answer to this, let us know.
Yeah.
Like, it's probably something really obvious. Like, oh, Gary's thinking of this room and Cole's thinking of this room.
Yeah, or Cole
Like,
didn't go into that room. Like,
yeah, that could be too.
Yeah.
Well, you missed out on an infinite skeleton room.
Damn it.
But hopefully you did not miss out on the mega weapon of the game.
I don't think you can. Like, you have to get this, right?
No.
Oh, wow.
No. Yeah, you definitely don't have to get it. Because you don't have to... I think the only thing it opens are the Mew spheres.
Oh, so
and
I was just Knights of the Rounding it then.
I think so. I mean, I could be wrong about that, but I think so. I don't think you have to go get this weapon. In fact, I know you don't have to, because a lot of times, a lot of the guides have referenced, like, if you get this, or if you go get this is fun. But if you didn't get that item, it's not a big deal, because you can still, the end boss, like, spoiler, doesn't actually require that much in the way of strength.
Yeah.
But yeah, you go through this huge, like, really cool looking rooted area where all these roots are
great,
like conglomerating around a crystal kind of area in the center where there, if you have the ancient sword, or the lawful blade rather.
Yeah, Septiego's sword. The sword master's.
Septiego's sword.
Yeah, the one that was given to him.
Sword. Yeah, from the king.
Yeah. And like that is the sole through line from the rest of the Kingsfield games into this one.
And into every Souls game, like every FromSoft game has this. And it's definitely the mega weapon for this game.
Yeah.
Like, it's so good.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's got the best like, does it have the best damage to weight ratio?
I think so.
Possibly. Like, it's mostly energy. So, and everything that I've read about it says that it has the most effective sword magic, but I never leveled up a sword enough to get sword magic.
Me either.
Including this one. Yeah. So that is this weird mystery mechanic that just never availed itself to me.
Yeah. And if you're doing that, you're doing it like you definitely don't need to.
Right.
Like the rest of the game, like, you can kind of get through it without again, like as I said, without being too tough. So
yeah. If
you're doing that, like, there are people who just level up all their weapons in this game to see all the magics. Like, that's a cool idea, but I'm not going to do it.
Right. This has it is unique to other weapons because it has a kind of a functional capability to it, which is it unlocks these sealed pieces of armor that you have probably found at the very least outside of the Mansion of Howling Winds, which are they belong to Lord Mew, who is kind of the forest folks' most let's say legendary warrior, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, he fell fighting the Dark Folk, and they sealed away his armor in these spheres that are floating around.
Which raises the question: there is no shortage of lava. Why wouldn't they just destroy it?
Yeah, melt them down. Well, they're too magical. But if you hit them with the Moonlight Sword, you can unlock them. I ended up only getting a couple of them because I didn't feel like hunting them all down. But you can go and get them, and they are the best armor in the game.
Yeah.
So
they make you look kind of like Dr. Doom a little bit.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a Gravelord-esque.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And it sets you up pretty good to go into the end game.
Yep. Which we're heading to now. Off from that main tunnel, you can go into this area, cross from that, and go down a very long staircase into this like goo area. This like sea of slime.
Yep.
Where there are these slime monsters. I thought I couldn't get into this. I was like, I can't touch that stuff. I shouldn't touch it when I first got here, and kept trying to use the water icon on it. Like you pick up a water icon at some point. I can't remember where.
Yeah.
But that's not what you actually use it inside this tower in the middle. But I was scared to get into this, and I didn't need to be.
Yep.
Like, you just kind of walk through it.
Yeah.
No big deal.
It's pretty much just poison. Like, you just go through it, and, it's neat because, again, like, creeping corruption is a theme in From's fantasy games. And this is, even more so than a lot of the other areas that you've seen, like a time where an area has become outwardly hostile because of these evil forces, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so you go in here and you purify this area, which gets you access into the deepest levels. Cute little goo people aside, all those little guys.
Yeah. This area with the goo area is kind of weird. It's like this hub with these rooms leading off of it, some of which are downright pointless.
Yeah, it's kind of Zelda-esque, actually. Like, I don't know if it's just because I'm playing Zelda right now, where I noticed that just there are some, like areas that are given equal geometric weight, but lesser, ludic weight. Like in terms of reward, but yeah, like it very much feels like that. There are only certain, spokes off of this hub that actually reward you with progress for going down them. Like maybe there is the last water crystal that you get from there, but otherwise just like, fight this poison dude and go back to the center, you dummy.
Right. And what do you need now? So
yeah, exactly.
You don't need that crystal. Yeah, this is moving into this next area. I don't necessarily think this will be mind blowing, but this is optional. I didn't do this. I did not fight this boss. I did not go into the jail.
I thought that was like I thought that was the gateway into the old battlefield. That's how I got him there.
You go through like an area that is, well, I went through like like a part of it, but I didn't fight that boss, and I didn't get into like the meat of it. Like you can skip through like almost all of it, because I went through a brief like kind of stairs down and just got right to the old battlefield.
Like I saw that, but there was like this weird green glowing moat between me and where I was wanting to get to. I thought that it was a trap, so I ventured further into the jail.
I'm pretty sure I just walked across the moat. If it's the one that I'm thinking of, I just walked through it to get there, because I mean, and it didn't hurt me that much. Like I just got through it. And at this point, like in the spirit of full disclosure, like I had my eyes on the prize. Like I feel like I'm at the end of this game. I want to stop playing it.
Oh yeah,
you know, I like it, but I just wanted to beat it. Mm-hmm. So I didn't go back and explore.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a whole area I have very little experience with.
If I'm recalling correctly, it was probably like 2 a.m. when I was playing this. I was very much in eyes prize mode, but it was like Saturday night. I was like, fuck it. I'm going to do this. And so I thought that it was just part of I just thought it was part of the game. And like, if that's the case, I'm kind of pissed, because there's like no real reward for doing it aside from fighting a pretty cool boss who like probably is like, if the Sword Master was going to be a boss in this game, he probably would have been this Dark Knight kind of guy, like who's just in the depths of this jail guarded by a bunch of Cerberus, which is pretty cool, like thematically. You know, and like this guy has lore significance because he is the one of the Dark Servants who killed Lord Ryu. Like they actually like mention that, like, you know, after he killed Lord Ryu, he set up shop here, like waiting for new challengers to come down, right? But yeah, like that's bizarre, actually.
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of weird. It's like a big sequence break. You just walk across that river of goo. So,
like, you know, when I think of sequence break, I think of like Super Metroid, like abusing the screen changing mechanic. Yeah. But wow,
yeah.
And like it's a weird area because like it doubles back on itself a lot. Like there are you know, not so much fake walls, but like I would say that it is more tangled than a lot of the areas you've seen so far. It's like a pretty cool dungeon. Like I think it's cooler than the old Battlefield, but.
Yeah, the old Battlefield looks just like a generic hellscape to me.
Yeah.
You know, and it's also full of those demon bosses, which are really, you know, tricky. The one cool thing with the old Battlefield are all the dragon skeletons.
Yeah,
which I'll always walk on a dragon skeleton.
Yeah, it's like a bridge. Well, they're usually bridged, so you usually have to walk on them.
Yeah, I like walking across some dragon bones.
Yeah. But like it's pretty cool because you get the sense that this area is, you know, just kind of unstuck in time, right? It's it feels a little bit like the Kiln, except less desolate. It's just like you know, like the this area that is on the borderlands between Ultimate Evil and Civilization that is in perpetual war, except you don't see what's fighting against the Ultimate Evil, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And so,
yeah, like near a portal to like hell. Like this is the part that felt like hell to me. Like almost like a Christian hell. You know, which is kind of one of the things that I feel the Abyss is a lot stronger as a overwhelming darkness, because at the very least, like it has a visual motif that doesn't recall anything. You know, like it is just when you're in the Abyss and under Elysial, it's mostly darkness, but the way that it corrupts the people is interesting. You know, and this, you know, you're fighting demons next to lava fields and on top of bone towers. Like it just felt very, very, you know, Judeo-Christian hell to me.
It's like Bosch without the Bosch.
Yeah. Yep. Without any of the kind of design sense. So this part felt generic to me almost. And I was like, what is this doing here? Like, this does not. I like the idea of there being this battle, but I felt like it needed something, especially in what came like after this. I thought that the actual end boss was going to be like a big devil or something. I had no idea that, you know, it really redeemed itself in what it ended up being. But this part feels very generic to me.
The end boss would just be your PS2 through the USB connected printer printing out a chick tract.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, I like the idea of a perpetual battle, even after the battle is lost by one side. But you're right. Like visually, it is pretty weird, or uninspiring. Weird would be good. Weird is a compliment. But like, okay, so when I say weird, I mean this is under open air, even though it ought not to be.
Yeah, it's incongruous.
Yeah. which I guess is also a compliment because I say that as a compliment a lot of the time. So,
Yeah.
anyway. This is where Mew died, as we mentioned. This Dark Knight killed him, and what I love is kind of this run up to the final shrine, which has all of these stones that are laid on either side, and they all say the same thing, which is praise the darkness is truth, which is a decade too soon mirror inverse of praise the sun.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So I'm reading nothing. I'm reading something into nothing. But if we are doing this thematic approach, then we can say that this is the converse of praising the sun.
Sure.
Why not?
Yeah. It is dark here. Your sword will actually light up in front of you with the moonlight sword, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And you head into the last proper boss of the game, the Dark Succubus. Who is there lore significance to her, or is she just a demon?
I think she is just like the other dark servants, like the Hammer Demon and the Dark Knight, just somebody who is just out there, and she just happens to be the last one that you fight. She might be like the master of these, because those archers that you fight are the same as the Night Elf assassins that you've been fighting the whole way through. So, it may just be that she is deploying them, or she is the most shadowy and secretive of them,
or seducing them, or something into it. She can't be called succubus for nothing.
Right.
That's a chosen word for her.
Or it is a translated thing.
Or a translation error. Yeah. It's one or the other.
Lady Demon. Yep.
Yeah. Pretty tough boss fight. I found you have really good equipment at this point, but she does a lot of damage.
Yeah.
And I was hammering on my status effect things because the archers around you are constantly pelting you with arrows.
Right.
The arena is a little bit like the Tower Knight.
Yep.
And that you're fighting with just kind of bowmen all the way around you, except that there's not a way to get up there and get them, before fighting her, I don't think.
Yeah. And your only real solace in that is if you do enough damage to the succubus, she'll go away for a little bit, which lets you safely switch to the crossbow and take those guys out.
Yep, or heal or what have you.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's the last line of defense before you actually get to your ultimate goal, which is, a place where you can actually get rid of this dark idol.
Yeah, the dark one, which this is weird. That I was not expecting this. Weird that it is not like the Souls games or anything either. This would not have been a boss in one of the Souls games. This is Earthbound. You being in a gigantic Giger masturbation fantasy organic system of tunnels where the pulsating ovulating pleasure sacs are coming out of the walls trying to get you.
It's like the last level of Contra.
Yeah right after you place the idol, you go up and you place this idol and you just fall into the last level of Contra or Life Force or H.R. Geiger's
Gears of
masturbation
War 2.
shack. Yeah, H.R. Geiger's Gears of War 2.
I prefer Masturbation Shack. I hope one day I am of enough means to own enough land to have a dedicated Masturbation Shack.
And have it designed by none other than H.R. Geiger.
Yeah. Just to have him around to watch. He's alive, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, he's still alive.
I just hoped I wouldn't, this plan wouldn't involve a shovel.
Yeah. It's just called a H.R. Geiger Masturbation Shack because it is where you masturbate onto the corpse of H.R. Geiger.
I'm not comfortable taking it that far. I would rather go with Masturbation Shaquille O'Neal.
There we go.
There we go. That's my Masturbation Shack.
You're comfortable with taking it that far? What if you actually meet Shaq and he references that joke about you calling him a Masturbation Shack? You don't want to call Shaq a Masturbation Shack. He's the nicest guy in the world.
Okay, so I'm chastised. I am chastised, and if he does do a new Shaq Fu, I hope that we are part of his press junket, okay?
Jesus Christ, I hope so. Get some press copies of that shit. I kind of want that shirt.
Me too. Don't Fu it up.
Yeah, don't Fu it up. I'll wear a Shaq Fu shirt.
Me too. Despite our pre-roll of talking about how video game shirts are unanimously bullshit.
Yeah, well, this is special.
This is special. This is of special significance to us. I am sorry, Shaq. You are my hero. I didn't mean to talk about masturbating to you. Wink.
Or you masturbating. Right. I wonder I should find out what his number is on his what is it called? Sport coat? Was those things the basketball men play?
Yeah, it is his athleticism jerkin.
Yeah, his jerkin. Whatever his competitive jerkin is, I should find out what his digits are and wear that competitive jerkin. And then people think I like basketball. I'm like, no. No.
I'm referring to the 1993 masterpiece, Shaq Fu. Why does everybody get this wrong?
And also just the man, like, do yourself a favor at home. Google image search Shaq smiling. And, like, it's so good.
Yep.
So,
like, he is probably one of, like, 2 NBA stars who has, like, avoided scandal his entire career.
Yeah. I mean, man, have you seen the GIF where it's the line of cats doing that little like thing where they shake their shoulders when they're about to pounce on something, and you scroll down and Shaq doing the same thing?
You share that on the Abject Suffering page.
Yeah, it's so good.
Oh, man. I want to send my kids to the Saint Shaq Catholic School. I'm not even Catholic.
Shacklet. Shacklet.
Shacklick?
Shacktholicism?
Glory be to the dunk in the highest. We shun the free throw from your heart. He's bad at free throws, right? That's his thing.
Oh, who fucking knows? Just I can't not look in his eyes. Like
it's enchanting.
I never see him next to a basketball. I just
see him next to a sugar glider.
Yeah, exactly. I just see him conducting a symphony for some reason.
The symphony of your heart?
Yeah. Well, that's one of the Google image searches is him conducting a symphony.
Yep.
Yeah, he just has adventures.
Does one of those adventures include fighting polygons in the stomach?
Probably.
Okay.
Probably. Going into an Earthbound-esque Geiger womb.
Yeah, into a Geiger womb that is also like a PS1 tech demo.
Yeah. Yeah. Like super shitty polygons popping out of these things. The run up to this, where you're going through that kind of maze of, webbed, mood sacks. Like that's where I used my King's map.
Yep.
Because I was like, I can't fight any of these things. They respawn if you kill them. So you shouldn't fight any of them. And I was under leveled at this point. Like I probably could have stood to level up a little bit, partly because I skipped the jail probably. But I just dashed through like, okay, look at the map, memorize, left fork, right fork, right fork.
Yeah.
And then just sprint through.
If it's any consolation, I did the very same thing, even though I did go to jail. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
You get through and you get to this other bigger organic like, hardscape, which is actually the boss. Which is like, it's kind of interesting. Like it is a pathing boss. Like it is get to this area without getting killed, Yeah. And then, there's a giant uvula, like, floating, which presumably is like the dark one or the darkness or the cause of this.
Yeah.
Part of the reason why I think those insects might be still connected is because there is a little bit of like the fact that this is all kind of organic. Like it's not a magical presence. It is an organic thing. And the idea of it being, these bugs that crawl in your ears and take over your mind could be like a spore from this thing.
Oh, yeah, I could see that.
But, yeah.
Being that I see no evidence against it, and I am very much a fan of that idea, I will not disagree with you.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. It's as close to a unifying theory of the dark of this game as I can think of.
Yeah.
But you had to hit this uvula 3 times. And every time you do, he kind of drops you below him. And you have to run back up.
Yeah, he cuts the floor out from under you, so you have to avoid the polygons. You ever fight the last boss of Virtua Fighter or Virtua Fighter 2?
No.
Durandal? That's what they look like, actually. Which those very much were just tech demos of their respective platforms, right?
Okay, yeah, no, I did not get that far.
There we go.
Yeah, not that far. I never played Virtual Fighter. Oh.
Yeah. But yeah, you get up there, it's like 3 times. It's like wicked easy.
Yeah, it's very easy. And I like that. I mean, I kind of like that it's not just a big, because the early Kingsfield, so Kingsfield 1, for as little as I remember of it, American Kingsfield 1, the end boss is a giant dragon kind of monster thing. And it's a real big hit point sponge, damage sponge. and it's just kind of going toe to toe with it and trying to out heal it. And having something that is not quite that, I appreciated. It's not the best boss fight in the world. In an actual, Dark Souls game, it'd be one of the worst boss fights. But for this, I kind of liked it.
Yeah.
And thinking of the succubus as actually the kind of final combat encounter, and this just being like, oh shit, this is what the actual dark is. This is what you're keeping back. Like, this is what the amulet is tied to.
Yeah.
Or idol, rather.
And it's just playing itself to its strength, right? Like, mechanically, this wouldn't be set up for a gigantic epic fight, which it sounds like from your recollection. They learn from it. Like, let's make the last fight like a puzzle fight, whereas like Dark Souls is mechanically sound enough to make that not the case. Like, okay, we can actually like put something in front of you that you can fight on relatively equal terms.
Right, and that's in the Souls games. That's what the boss is. It's like a swordsman.
Yep.
And that would feel. I mean, I guess I didn't fight the Dark Knight in this, but I feel like the mechanics of this game, with your your very limited mobility and ability to dodge, would make that kind of encounter difficult. To pull off with any kind of sense of scale.
Right. So it would just be more of the same, which is like hit, back away, hit, back away,
right.
hit, back away, ad infinitum until credits.
And that's Kingsfield 4. One of the things that happens after you beat it, you get this ending scroll, and something that they developed with the later games is ambiguity. Like, the reason why the end of Demon Souls and Dark Souls, Cole and I can like debate about it, and people have like fan theories as to what happened. Here, like, it just tells you the land prospered, and the dark is consigned to the abyss, and the forest comes back. There is that idea that like light could become so worshipped as to become an object of fear enough to tempt people into releasing this again.
Yeah, it's like a surrogate dark, right?
Like, that could happen, but it's not part of the premise like it is in the Souls games.
Right.
It feels very neat.
It could be a question of like, are you restoring balance, or are you just swinging the pendulum over to one side for a little bit longer until it comes back?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And who knows? Exactly. And there's nothing, nothing that comes from it. There's nothing that really suggests. Yeah. Because it's not a cyclical thing. Like in, the Dark Souls, like, this is the first time this has happened. So in Dark Souls and Demon Souls, like, in Demon Souls, the old one had been awakened. There was a time of demons before. In Dark Souls, you have this kind of rich history you're coming upon. Here, it's like, okay, well, I have to go put this thing back, and this is the shitty area where it's at.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But yeah, good game.
I'm very happy I played it.
Me too.
I'm looking forward to when I retire and I eventually have time to do something, aside from just constantly play games for assignment and work for my company, that I can play, Kingsfield 1 through 3, and also Shadow Tower, which literally everybody is telling us to play.
Yeah. Well, who knows? Maybe between, now and when we get to the end of the Dark Souls 2 run, they'll announce Demon Souls 2, and we'll have enough, space for another Origin season.
We can kindle.
Yeah, we can just kindle the bonfire. Yeah. I was thinking about that. I don't want to, I was thinking about, I like this Kingsfield game. Would it be worth going back and doing more of them and stuff? And I don't want to end on, a whimper, if we end up having to end, and just keep kindling.
That's the way I feel, too. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the fourth season will be long enough.
No.
But and if another Souls game gets announced, we'll be back.
Yeah. That's kind of a bummer. I don't want to think about this show ending.
Yeah, it is sad.
I think about it often, but I don't want to think about it.
Yeah. But yeah, that's Kingsfield 4.
Yeah.
And hopefully we illustrated why it's of interest to Souls fans.
Mm-hmm. I recommend you go check it out.
Yeah, me too. I think if you're going to do a Kingsfield game, I think this is the one to do. So,
do you want to hear my final stats?
Yeah.
Like, you see them, but this is the first game that I recorded my entire playthrough of and spreadsheeted out. So the clock on my last save is 20 minutes and 4 seconds and 58 seconds. Or so 20 hours, 4 minutes, 58 seconds. There we go. So probably like, let's say, 20 and a half hours. Whereas my actual playtime was just over 30 hours. So, let's say 1/3 of my playtime was lost to saves. Right?
That's insane.
Yep.
Like that is so nuts. Like, I know I'm not saying this to beat you up. You are the first person to admit that you're bad at games. Like you've said it. I've never said it. You've said it multiple times on the show. That's crazy cool.
I would be curious, like if that happens. So something we have now is persistence. Is like you have these clocks that are not that are not tied to like when you save. Like Dark Souls, it counts whenever you're active. I would just be curious what like how that would work. Like how much of stuff you play over. Right.
Yeah.
Like even somebody like my opinion of myself, like in every other aspect of my life, might be lower than what it actually should be. Right. But that might actually be the case, especially in a game that is as quote unquote hard as this. It does. And I just don't know if this number is as shocking as it should be.
Right.
And so my number of deaths, I have 35 captured. I probably lost about 10 to getting the Black Scar and fighting the Dark Magician. So like probably 45 deaths total.
Yeah.
Right. Like any number is going to be shocking like that. But I don't know. I don't know that I don't know that is as far out of the ordinary as it normally would be.
Yeah, I don't actually know for sure.
Yeah.
A third of the time seems like a lot. I would be surprised. I know I didn't spend 30 hours playing the game. I didn't track it though either, so maybe I'm misremembering it. My play clock, I ended up a couple times leaving the game paused overnight.
Yep.
I would play it, so my play clock is unreliable. Like it was 48 hours or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
that's pretty. That's nuts.
Yeah, it's a long time. I would get tired and just be like, pause the game and go to sleep.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. I don't know.
But,
I will freely admit to being worse at things than I actually am. So.
No, and yeah, I mean, and it's not like a dick measuring thing either. Like I don't care. There's no pride in being, average at video games. It just seems like a lot. Like I would have gotten more frustrated than you've come across if I felt like I spent a third of my time replaying stuff
I don't know.
in the game.
I'm going to record my first playthrough of Dark Souls, even if it doesn't get published anywhere. I'm going to see. I'm going to see what it see how many times I die in that.
Yeah, maybe I'll do the same. Like if I get the capture card up and going and just not do anything with it. I don't want to do commentary because I don't want to distract myself. But maybe it'd be useful just to know.
Yeah.
So.
I don't know. Data is really cool. That which gets measured gets done. So, yeah.
Yeah, so just kind of some miscellaneous and errata type material going through. Some general Kingsfield impressions we've collected from you guys.
Yeah.
Start us off with Tanner Wolfenstein 3D. Says via Facebook. He will get back to us with his comments as soon as his character finishes turning around, which is pretty funny. Because it does take 10 seconds to turn around in this game.
Chad Cross, echoing that sentiment via Facebook, says, "Yeah, I can't seem to get over the controls. I keep trying for science."
I'm glad this game isn't super expensive or anything. If we encouraged a bunch of people to play this and then like they all hated it initially and they had to spend like $60 on it, it would have felt kind of bad.
Yeah.
But
caveat emptor.
Yeah, indeed. DJ Davis says via Facebook, which is either a regular name or a really shitty DJ name.
DJ Steve, Wicca Wikipedia.
They call that because my name is Davis. He says he rented the first Kingsfield available for the United States for the PS1 because it was one of the only games available to rent at the time. He only remembers thinking, this is bullshit, and returned it and played Magic Carpet and Twisted Metal instead. I
don't even remember Magic Carpet.
Oh, there's not much to Magic Carpet. But I don't know. Like I had a similar, like I I talked about how I didn't really have a lot of options when I first played the first Kingsfield, but I remember really enjoying it. But yeah, who knows? It is a slower paced, harder to get into game.
I could not blame somebody for being turned off by the presentation, the aesthetics, or the controls of this. Right?
Yeah.
Like, it probably is something you have to force yourself through, right?
I guess like aesthetics is the only one of those that gives me a little bit, because I kind of like the aesthetics of it a lot.
And I lump those in, like in terms of aesthetics, like, oh, the textures are muddy and I'm used to more fidelity, blah blah blah. Like those superficial things. I love the design of it too. But you kind of have to admit, like from those first blushes, like of the muddy, like especially that like destroyed city, like maybe it's not that inspiring. Like, yeah, it's a little while until you get to like even the mines where it's
and the big strength is atmosphere, which is part of the aesthetic thing, but that comes later.
Yeah,
that's something that has to set in. It's not something you're going to get right away. Usually,
Mm-hmm. So Samuel says via contact, I've only played a couple of hours of Kingsfield: The Ancient City, but I've beaten all 3 PS1 Kingsfield games, and there are 2 points about the series that make it awesome. The first one is the empowerment arc of all the games. It's incredibly easy to die at the beginning of every Kingsfield, but by the end of the game you feel like a total badass. To a lesser extent, I love the jerky head movement NPCs make when you talk to them in all 4 Kingsfields. It's kind of hard to explain, but you guys will probably know what I'm talking about by the end of KF4. A minor correction on the last episode, I believe he's referring to episode number 2 as of the time of this writing. The Shadow Tower game on PS2 was never released in America and only has a fan translation, but the original Shadow Tower on PS1 does have an English release. Let's see here. I lost my place. It's also awesome, and you should totally play it. It has more resource scarcity and survival elements than any other From games, but it's satisfying as hell once you figure the game out. Also, it has shield blocking, which works about as well as you would expect in a first-person game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Shadow Tower, I've got that loaded up. It's a shame that you can't buy it here. But it is readily available in a fan translation, and we're just now getting to a point where PS2 emulation totally possible. So I intend to dip into that at a later time.
Me too.
Yeah. And he continues, this is like Berserk cleanup, but I didn't feel like putting it in with the rest of the Berserk cleanup. He says, finally, judging by the musical bumpers in the Berserk episodes, I'm guessing at least one of you liked Susumu Hirasawa's score in the Berserk anime. If so, I'd recommend watching any anime he's involved with that's directed by Satoshi Kon. Particularly the show Paranoia Agent and the movie Millennium Actress. I think you guys might enjoy Satoshi Kon's work, not only because it's all intelligently written and beautifully animated, but also because Satoshi Kon basically hated otaku more than any person on Earth ever has. And that really comes through in some of his animes. Then he got cancer and died when he was 46 because this world is shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think he's referring to the movies. In those episodes I used the movie scores through it a lot, but overall we used a lot of that Berserk music because it's all pretty good.
Yeah,
yeah,
agreed. Yeah, I like having the soundtrack for those. And finally, some more Souls wrap up. Take says via contact, "Hey, Bonfireside Chat. I've been a bit behind, so I'm only catching up to your last Berserk episode now. That really brings me back, since I saw most of it at the anime club I was attending in college around the late 90s, early 2000s. I mostly forgot about the stuff that happens in the first episode, so the last episode of the series was a really strange turn for me, and my friends who also watched it at the time. Having read some of the manga since then, it makes a bit more sense to see that the TV series anime was just a sub-story in a larger arc. Hope the story gets wrapped up someday. Speaking of stuff you guys might like, have you guys played Dragon's Dogma? It's sort of a mix between Dark Souls and Monster Hunter. You can buy Griffith and Guts' armor in the game. Ooh. They did have some kind of collaboration. So I had my pawn dressed up as Griffith for a while. He also goes on to ask what consoles we'll be playing Dark Souls 2 on. I think we're both doing PS3.
Yes.
Is that correct? And then also mentions at the end of the movie Fanboys, a group of young nerds are gathered to watch Star Wars Episode 1, and someone asks, what if the movie sucks? So he asked what we would really do if Dark Souls 2 sucks.
I don't know. I mean, like, I think it would make a very interesting season of the show.
Yeah,
like we would have to rapidly adjust our attitudes and like turn it into like how exactly does this beyond superficial levels, but like mechanically and thematically, like why, right?
Yeah, because we don't just like that we're big fans of the game, but I like to think that part of the point of the show is figuring out why we are big fans of the game. Like it's not necessarily a review. It's like us going point by point, like. What are the things we like? How do we react? What adds up to us really loving this thing? And it would be the same thing. It would be us going point by point, area by area, seeing what adds up to us not liking it. So I would be, even if it's not the amazing thing I need it to be for my life, I would be very surprised if it, like, at worst, it wasn't like a mixed success.
Right.
Like if it ends up being a B- kind of experience where it's like, this has a lot of cool ideas, but kind of fails as a whole, there'll still be plenty to talk about.
Yeah.
I think it will be better than that, but I think that is much more likely than it just being like, and not like being Star Wars Episode 1.
Yeah, exactly.
Which does suck.
Yeah.
Millennials.
I don't even know about it. I don't think that's a millennials thing. I think that's people who are like 12 right now.
Maybe.
Oh, yeah, okay. People who are 12 right now were 2 when it came out. So,
yeah.
Fuck.
I don't know who's defending the prequels now. That's a pretty
dead horse to beat. It's like Episode 1 was made entirely to like appeal to kids who are younger than the Star Wars main audience are. But yeah. You know what? I think that like my sweet spot for thinking about and discussing a game is like in the 7.0 range. Right? Mm-hmm. So, like, if this was a 7.0 game, like, that would be, like, good eatings,
Or for discussion.
For discussion, right? Yeah. Like even, and even for play, right? Like, and, I'm referring to, like, an outmoded, like, I'm referring to an outmoded, like, way of reviewing games that is, like, of EGM circa 2002. But when I think of, like, a 7.0 game, it is pre-inflation, but like post Silent Hill being out, where all of that stuff exists. And so like Flawed Gems is where like I like love spending my time. So even if it is like a B- or C+ game, like I'm going to revel in like digging into it and looking at, why this might possibly fail in a way that speaks to me personally.
Right.
Which, might not be the most, like objectively the most ideal way to spend my time, but like the way that might possibly shape this next, season would be like we might be more harsh. So when we're talking about Demon Souls, we say like, oh, 5.2 is like Blighttown and blah blah blah. But like we're going to like more aggressively map like what this area is like and why it fails compared to the way this earlier game did it better, right? Like that's going to change the structure and the nature of the conversation, right?
Yeah. I mean, if that ends up being the case, like I like to hope that even though it's a direct sequel, there will not be like that won't be so easy to do,
right?
Like I hope there are enough new ideas in it where like obviously there'll be some parallels, but I hope that that's not easy for us if that's what we end up doing.
Yeah.
But yeah. That's true. I mean, and that's what we do.
Yep, it is what we do. And thinking back to the beta, like I can't think of an area that directly maps to. So hopefully that is, across the board. So
yeah, I think it will be based on what little I've seen.
God, like right now when we're recording, it's 2 weeks away. But like when people are listening to this, it is literally 2 days from now.
Yeah.
Like, dude.
Yeah. It's so soon. Like, I might get I might not be able to take work off for it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, like between like staffing things and stuff, I might not be able to do it.
Yeah.
And the timing of it. Mm-hmm. So I'm really, I'm at that point now where it's like, do I bargain in good faith and say like, this is actually important to me and a semi-professional concern for this thing, that I do. Can I make an exception, or do I keep my mouth shut about it? Because if I say anything about it ahead of time, it'll make it seem very suspicious when I call in sick. So like I'm at that point now where it's like, do I be safe and just fake it?
Yeah.
Or and luckily I know none of my employers listen to this probably.
Exactly. So. Oh yeah, Google's a weird thing, but like I know for me, like I can work from home anyway, and so I've already like months ago I said I'm going to be away on these particular days, but I'm probably knowing how shit goes wrong and knowing how things go, I'm going to have to like pause Dark Souls and hope I don't get invaded so I can like address these particular concerns. But that is very different from needing to be away from my like gaming sanctuary, right?
Right. Yeah. I'm hoping to get uninterrupted time. Like even if I just end up mainlining it after work each day,
that is not an ideal way to live.
I can handle it.
Yep.
Like I bet you with compression, like with just general Souls knowledge, like taking the amount of time it took me to beat Dark Souls and then looking at how much easier Demon Souls was for me, just knowing the style of the game. I bet you it comes out on Tuesday. I bet you I can get it beat by the time we record that first thing, even if I'm just doing it at night, 5 hours when I get off work.
Right.
So
I don't know. Seems pretty. I feel like that's an ambitious goal for me personally, but we've established I probably suck at games. So
it's not. I don't think it's necessarily that. You also like take your work home with you, which I don't have to do.
Sure.
So that's part of it.
So we took a little break here. Take, do you want me to do this because I've internalized it better than this shitty formatting has? Yeah. So Take advances, and I'll put links to this in the show notes. Gary, if you can make a note of this for me when you send this over. But he submits my favorite kind of theory, which is a crackpot theory, which is that the upgrade materials from Dark Souls are quite possibly pieces of the Nexus from Demon Souls. Okay? It's a little bit long to read, like in its entirety. It's like a couple of images on Imgur, but I'm gonna lay this out. So Take, if you paid attention throughout the entire series of the show, he is our expert in terms of like translation, right? Like he's the person who says, "Hey, this thing is called this here in this version of the game, in the Japanese version of the game, and this possibly reveals this kind of thing about it." So the salient part of this here is that in Japanese, it's not called the Nexus. It's not called that particular thing. It's called the Temple of the Wedge, right? So in English, it's called the Archstone. And when you think of a wedge and an arch, you think of a keystone, which is kind of this thing that the structure of the arch is entirely founded upon, right? Without a keystone, the arch collapses. Now, when we're talking about the Nexus and the fabric of the universe, without the Archstone and the Keystone, everything collapses, right? So if you look throughout the Nexus itself, there are a lot of arches that have their keystones missing, these semicircles that are incomplete, these circular segments that are existing outside of space, right? Mm-hmm. So the Archstones literally maintain the structure of the world. Archstones as we understand them now. The Japanese version of Dark Souls does not call it Titanite. Okay? Titanite doesn't exist in the Japanese version of Archstone. Instead, they're called Wedgestones/Keystones. Okay? So where does that leave the Titanite demons? Instead, in Japanese, they're called Wedge demons. And the idea is that instead of generating these keystones/wedgestones, they are generated from them. Okay, and if you look at Titanite demons, right, they have those crazy horns and those Titanite catchpoles that can never get. And those look like arches without keystones or wedgestones, right? And look at how many upgrade materials there are in Dark Souls, 5 to 6. How many archstones are there in Demon Souls? 5 to 6. Are you seeing this? Are you seeing this? All right. Also, look at the sprites in the menu for Titanite slabs in Dark Souls. They have writing. Oftentimes, keystones will have writing on them too. So, if you follow that train of logic, that train of crackpot logic that this person who has more insight than us has followed, you can say that the stuff that makes your weapon stronger in Dark Souls is made of the Nexus from Demon Souls.
Huh.
QED ergo.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's interesting.
It is interesting. Yeah. I mean,
I don't even know. I don't know that I believe it. I like acting like I do.
yeah,
like,
I mean,
that etymology is interesting anyway. Like I had no idea
Yeah.
that the Nexus was called the wedge, right? Which could either be, the keystone, or a wedge is something that separates things. And you could see the Nexus as this disruptive thing, and chaos or the fog being the natural resting state of the universe, just like the natural resting state of an arch would be collapsed on the ground, right?
oh sure. Like
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, I guess like the biggest stretch in that is the wedge stone to keystone thing.
Yeah.
Like of the wedge, I don't necessarily think of it as meaning that. Like I would have thought of more of a dividing
Yep.
thing for that, since it is kind of a like, and that's closer to what Nexus means.
Yeah.
Like that, like the place in between.
Right.
So that makes that, like, them choosing to translate it with Nexus makes more sense for that interpretation of the word wedge
Right.
to me. But yeah,
Well,
it's interesting. Like,
I mean, like at the same time, cleave could mean to separate or to join.
yeah,
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not like arguing for one or the other. Like both of them are equally interesting and as intellectually satisfying to my perverse sensibilities. So
yeah,
yeah,
it's definitely interesting.
yeah. Thank you, Take. That is
Thank you, Take.
yeah. That'll be in the notes if you want to see those. And he has references to his sources in that.
Yeah, good work as always. I don't mean to sound dismissive of the theory.
Yep.
It is definitely interesting to hear about.
True.
Yeah. So by way of admin, what can they do?
Well, if you want to join the conversation and share your thoughts, your first impressions as you're hearing this of Dark Souls 2, that is facebook.com/bonfiresidechat or duckfeed.tv/contact. Our first episode of the Dark Souls 2 season is going to be about first impressions, and we want this to be a community-wide thing because in the existence of this podcast, this is the first launch we've been present for.
Yeah. Yep. Indeed. Yeah. So definitely do that and share your thoughts. By way of kind of checking us out, checking things out, helping us out, you can listen to the other shows that we have on the network. Abject Suffering, Watch Out for Fireballs, Those Damn Ross Kids, check it out. Comrade, The Level, Hexcrank, which is a survival horror blog, The Daddening, which is coming soon, which is Dennis Furia from The Level, talking about gaming and fatherhood, as he is expecting a child. A chillin'. All of that stuff can be found at Duckfeed.tv.
Yeah.
You should definitely go there and consume it.
Yeah. And if we could ask you a favor, check out Latchkey Kingdom. That is latchkeykingdom.com if you like good webcomics.
Indeed.
Yeah.
You can also rate and review us on iTunes. That's always appreciated.
Yeah.
Tell your friends about it.
Yeah.
Like tell people in real life. Talk about it on message boards. That kind of thing is hugely helpful.
Yeah. Especially as we are on the cusp of Dark Souls 2.
Indeed.
Yeah. And there's the tip jar. If you're going to be buying stuff from Amazon, use the link there, and that goes a long way towards helping host the show and the website. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Cool. We've talked about Kingsfield a lot.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah. I'm like any of these things, like I'm just like, well, I'm done talking about Kingsfield. Like it is, I liked playing it. I'll talk about Kingsfield again before I die, but
Yep.
I'm happy to be done with it the same way I was happy to be done talking about Berserk
Yep.
at the end of the Berserk episodes. So,
Yep. Cool.
yeah. So, until next time, so the world, well, we'll see what happens to the
Yep.
world.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, we don't know what happens to the world yet, but we'll find out in just a couple weeks.
Yep.
So,
So I will say good night.
good night.
And we all pray that we will have far more soon